Jasmine, the Aspiring Kryptonian. As I may have mentioned before, I'm going to be starting to use YouTube a lot more, mostly because it was one of my goals for 2020, but I also wanted to do it anyway because I enjoy doing it. So I wanted to introduce a new segment to you, which I'm going to be doing weekly, or I'll try to do as weekly as possible, but it's going to be called Comic Book Chatter. Now, as you may have guessed, it is about comic books. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through the new releases for comics each week. We'll go through some back issues that I've collected, and you'll see some of my collection. We'll go through the gaps that I filled in my collection that week, what I think of those comics, and we'll also be going through previous years. So at the moment I'm reading The Golden Age of Superman, so I can fill in the gaps for my Superman reading order, which I'm currently working through. So I'm currently on 1946, so I'll let you know what issues are my favourite from that year, some issues that I don't particularly like, characters that I like, characters that I don't like, and just little things like that. And I'll give you some recommendations from each year as well as I go through. So yeah, let's get started. And I just want to reiterate that this room won't be staying like this. I've just moved house, so we're going to be turning this into a Superman museum. So you can see the blue strips on the wall. That's from whoever lived here before, and all my stuff's kind of in boxes and in plastic bags and things. So eventually, as this episodes will progress, you'll see the progression of my Superman museum as well. This week will probably be one of the shortest ones in regards to new releases, because as I mentioned, there's a delay from physical copies in the US and the UK, obviously due to coronavirus, which is understandable. This week, from the UK point of view, there are no physical releases, which I'm sad to say, but I do have them ready for pre-order, so as soon as they do come in, I'll get my copies. But in the US, the new release this week that I have on pre-order is Lois Lane 11. So first of all, about the Lois Lane series, I've loved it so far. There's been a few issues that are a little bit slow, I thought, or ones that kind of spent more time explaining things that we weren't sure about, if that makes sense. But all those things now in this issue are starting to come together, which is really good, because obviously there's only one issue left, which I'm low-key gutted about. It's been a really good series, and you know, it's overdue for Lois Lane to get her own solo series, along with Jimmy Olsen as well, which is still going. I think it's very rare that we get a solo Lois Lane series. I think there's been 3 solo series of Lois Lane ever. So having this it's just been nice to get to know the character on her own. So in this series, she's asked Superman to step away from helping her, which I think really helps, because you know, Lois Lane is known to many as a damsel in distress. Even though she isn't, she's badass and she can handle herself, which is exactly what this series shows. So to be honest, in the comic book chatter episodes, the main thing that I'm going to be talking about on the new releases is definitely going to be the covers. Like I said, I don't really want to go into too much detail on each individual issue, because obviously we have the reviews already on the site, and I obviously don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't read it yourself. So the covers for Lois Lane 11 are amazing. So if my technical skills are correct, the cover by Mike Perkins with colours by Andrew Troy should show up here. Bear with me, because this is my first YouTube video where I'm actually editing on a laptop, so there may be a few discrepancies, but yeah, deal with me. Bear with me, I mean. So yeah, the cover for Lois Lane is by Mike Perkins, who also does the interior art. I love Mike Perkins' artwork on this series, especially on the covers, because it gives you a taste of what to expect within the issue. So it perfectly represents the vibe as well. So it's really gritty, really realistic, and really detailed, his covers. But they also kind of like double meanings to them, if that makes sense. So on this cover in particular, you've got Lois Lane among a whirlpool, which also has a target on it, and I think that perfectly captures and explains this issue and what this issue's kind of led up to. I just think it's really clever the way he's done it, and I love the artwork style. It's very different, especially when you compare it to the likes of Jimmy Olsen, so the other 12-issue maxi series that DC released. If you look at the covers for that and the tone of the comic book itself, it's completely crazy. The colours it's extremely vibrant. It's just crazy. You can never anticipate what the cover's going to be. You can never anticipate what the story's going to be. And like I said, that really showcases what that issue's about, and the whole series as a whole, to be honest. This one like I said, is very gritty, it's very realistic, it's very down to earth. The colours aren't crazy, they're very grounded, if you will. But yeah, I think it perfectly represents the tone of the comic book, and I think that's important when it comes to comic artists, especially if they're doing it from series, so doing the whole series and also doing the interior artwork. Now, onto the variant cover. Now, first of all, I love variant covers because they can be anything. So, although standard covers tend to match the tone of the story, like I was talking about before, or tends to match the contents of the issue itself, variant covers can just be anything. And sometimes you get the best artwork on these variants just because you get these kind of powerhouse artists working on these pieces. So this one in particular is by Joelle Jones and Geordie Belair, and it is incredible. It's got a complete 70s vibe to it, and it reminds me of a 70s movie poster is what it reminds me of. The detail on it with all the Daily Planet in the background, the extra read all about it, sort of newspaper style cuttings outs and holding phones and things like that. The detail in it's just amazing. It's kind of like a tattoo art, I feel. But sorry, I keep looking down because I'm looking at the cover as I'm saying it. But yeah, it perfectly encapsulates what Lois Lane is all about. She's got the fedora, which Superman tends to wear, well, Clark Kent tends to wear, which I think is a really nice touch. I'm a big fan of Joelle Jones' artwork anyway, and seeing her work on Lois Lane and characters that I really love is amazing. So this one is no exception, and I'm a big fan of it. This issue is written by Greg Rucka. Well, the whole series is written by Greg Rucka, and I think he's done it really masterfully. Every time Lois speaks or one of the characters speaks, he's nailed her personality and the character as a whole. I think, well, in fact, I love the way that he's kind of led everything to where it is now. So in previous issues of Lois Lane, we've kind of got glimpses of people. Jessica from Wolverhampton, when I first read that, I was like, what's this all about? I didn't really know where she linked in, and obviously the Kiss of Death, the character, I didn't know why she was kind of after Lois Lane and why Renee Montoya's kind of joined up forces with Lois Lane. But this issue really kind of explains that, and well, to an extent, because I think that's what the next and final issue is leading to. But the way he's kind of done that is really masterful, and I think it's kind of drip fed through rather than giving you the whole story at the beginning, which I kind of like because it adds to the mystery, and that's exactly what this series is. It's kind of like a mystery as to who is after Lois Lane and why. But it's nice to finally see why these characters are coming together. But yeah, I really enjoyed this issue, and I can't wait for the next and final one, which is going to be a little bit bittersweet for me because, like I said, it's the final issue and I've really loved this series, but at the same time we get all the answers to the questions that we have throughout the series, so I'm looking forward to it. And if you want a more detailed review of Lois Lane 11, you can head to the website www.theaspiringkryptonian.com. So with my collection, I have loads of random issues from random series, so I'm trying to build up those series and get a full run of some of them. The first one that I'm attempting to do that with is The Adventures of Superman. I've got a lot of the issues, a majority of the collection, but I think I've got 29 issues to get, so I'm slowly working my way through picking up the ones that I'm missing. I've got pretty much from 424 to 493, I think. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I'll just show you which ones I've been picking up this week. So admittedly, I haven't really read a lot of the comics that I've got. I kind of just got them and put them away. I know it's shameful. But as I mentioned, I'm doing this Superman reading order whereby I am going through every single comic. So eventually I will get down to it, and I might be 80 years older by the time I finish, but it's something I'm working on it. So the comics that I'm about to show you, I don't really know the context to. I don't really know the storyline. I've heard bits about it, but not too much detail, and I want to kind of keep it that way because when I do get to it, I want it to feel new. So like I mentioned, I have 424 to 593, so I picked up 594, which is The Adventures of Superman and Doomsday. So yeah, I love the cover on this one for obvious reasons, and I'm really looking forward to reading it in about 70 years time, but when I get through the rest of them. We have The Adventures of Superman 602, Another great cover. So yeah, like I said, I'm filling in the gaps for one series at the moment. I don't want to pick random comics for multiple series. I want to try and focus on one so I can get at least one full run. And 603, and this cover, do you know, I have no idea what's going on here. Some sort of evil looking baby. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this because I need to know what this is about. So if you have these issues or you read these issues, let me know what you think. No spoilers though, because I will be getting to it shortly. So for the Superman reading order, I've just finished 1946 and I'm leading on to 1947 this week. So I've picked out two of my favourite issues from 1946, and they're both from the Superman series. The first one is Superman 44, one of the stories in that, where Lois and Clark were transported back to Shakespeare times. They were transported, I think, after they asked Perry White for a raise, so they wanted to prove, well, they knew how well they could handle the newspaper, so they accidentally get transported somehow by someone's crazy invention to Shakespeare times, where they actually make their own newspaper, and it's called Ye Daily Planet, which I just thought was fun. It's nice to see sort of a light-hearted story which makes no sense. Superman issue 44 from 1946, if you wanted to read it. My second favourite, well actually this is my all-time favourite of that year, is in issue 45 of Superman, where Hocus and Pocus, they're two characters who think that they can do magic, but they actually can't. And they kind of pop up throughout the whole series, to be honest, which I quite like. And whenever I see that they're part of the story, I get excited because they're probably two of my favourite characters from the series at that time. What I really like about it is, for no reason whatsoever, Superman goes way out of his way to make them believe that their magic is real, which is nice of him, but kind of bad as well, because they really take it to the extreme because they think that they can really do this magic. Now, I can't remember exactly what the situation is, but there's a moment. So basically, whenever they wished something, or I think it's Hocus that wishes something, he'll say, Alakazam, make this do something, and Superman will do it without anybody noticing that it's him. And in this one, they wish for Clark Kent to be Superman, which is obviously an easy job for him, but it's in front of Lois, so he has to kind of put on this little act, which is quite fun. And then to prove that Clark isn't Superman really, because of how smooth it went, they also wish that Lois had the powers of Superman. So then obviously Lois, being the crazy lady that she is, she jumps out windows assuming that she can fly because of the magic's worked. She throws Perry White across a room, or lifts him up in a room, and she just starts taking on these bad guys, thinking obviously she can do all these amazing feats that Superman can do. So Superman has to follow her around everywhere and has to pretend that she's doing the acts. So he has to beat them up and make her think that it's him. No, make him think that it's her. No, make her think that she's doing it, if that makes sense. It was just a really fun issue, and I think, yeah, I'm a sucker for Golden Age stories like that, and I think, yeah, we could really do with a few random issues now where they're as crazy and as simple but fun as what they were back then. And I think, yeah, seeing things like that where Lois takes on the role of Superman, and I love seeing Clark having to prove himself not to be Superman because of the lengths that he has to go through to do that. So he's obviously pretending to be Clark Kent because he really is Superman. Clark Kent's the alter ego. So you have to see him really make a fool of himself as Clark Kent. Well, despite the sudden costume change, I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Comic Book Chatter. If you have any suggestions on how I can improve, I know obviously as it's my first video, I do have a lot that I need to work on, mostly sound, editing, and stop saying a lot, which I know I do, so I apologise for that in advance. But so, I've just done it again. Any constructive feedback that you have is more than welcome. Any segments that you want me to cover on this show, which I'll be doing weekly, you're more than welcome to do that. But yeah, just let me know what you think, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week for episode 2.